I am very pleased to have with us this amazing human being. But please, allow me first to start with Ergon. The Ergon Professional Hub is a community of professionals working collaboratively to help each other with career and skill development. It is a network of professionals designed to help each other with our job. We can match anyone in need advice, help or support to a mentor available through our network of volunteers. We can provide help to address challenges at work, get career decision, or find a new job. We also organize webinars and workshops on professional topics to help us develop in our career. Members of Ergon share resources empowering everyone to evolve, learn, and grow together professionally. Our mission is to provide a community where professionals gather to unlock the potential of their career. We are a group of many, all of us volunteers for all. So now, welcome Nuno, welcome Ami. I would like to start with Nuno Teles. Nuno Teles started his career in the marketing field. As he said, selling shampoos, and now he is the president of Diageo Beer Company. He is married and he is the father of 4 incredible girls. Dar is the founder and CEO of Idealis, and he will tell us more after. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
So, Nuno, we are here for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us your time and your knowledge.
Thank you so much, Rosario. And it's very happy. And first of all, is an honor, and I'm really happy to be here, sharing and interacting as much as we can. I would like this to be a dialogue rather than just a monologue, right? But I will just share a couple of ideas. As Rosario mentioned, I'm a proud dad and husband of Patricia and dad of 4 Marias. I thought about like sharing an image of them all. So allow me to share just like those are like the Patricia, which you can confuse with my daughters, because she looks as one of my daughters. So you see, they are all called Marias. The Maria Madalena, she's the oldest, she's 20. She's in Portugal studying medical school. And then Maria and Maria Inez and Maria Teresa. So they are 17, 14, and 10. But this is really something that I'm so thankful, and I think often what a privilege to have them all around and to grow and continue the journey of life with them all around. I would like to start with some ideas of the family roots. So the roots are important to me. My dad that already passed some years ago. My mom that she's still with us, 91 years old. But also like I'm one of 4 siblings, so a lot of nephews. So family has always been a very important part, and I think dictated a lot of what I am and my behaviors, what I believe. And the other thing I would like just to keep the image is a bit like my journey and what I've done and what basically from a career job perspective, what can I share, right? So the first thing that I would like to share, it's because I'm very much grounded in my family. When I graduated from business school, I was doubting in terms of like, should I go into finance, investment banking, or should I go and do some work that is more like consumer goods, CPG? And I took the decision while I was at college to study and to work at the same time. Like I did an internship at Unilever for a year, and I could really experience what was working for a CPG company, like Rosario shared that I was selling shampoos. I was indeed looking at how can I turn, hair in a beautiful hair, healthy hair, managing all the brands of Unilever, of shampoo brands, hair care. And that gave me the sense of what is the daily life of a brand manager. I also did an internship in a financial world, working for an investment banking, and I could also understand how was it to work for a bank. And at the end of my 5 years, when I graduated, I had the tough decision of shall I go CPG, and my brothers, one of my brothers is a lawyer, the other one is a economic professor, the other one she's a dentist. So they were all like, oh, the youngest of us all, he needs to go into finance because of, I don't know, the image associated to that role, and the kid cannot go and sell shampoos. But it was a decision that I took very easily because I really felt that I would be happier selling shampoos, and I would be more fulfilled doing that. So the decision I took at that time was I will do what I like rather than what others may think is more socially accepted, or has more prestige, or even salary could be higher, financially returns could be higher, career projections could be better. I did not pay attention to anything but the feeling that I would be happy. I would be, I could wake up in the morning and feel like going, and not feeling like I would go and work. I would basically wake up and I would do something that I would do anyway. So, and that was a moment that I still remember. And I have here the picture of Lisbon, the picture of the Unilever logo. I really enjoyed. Unilever gave me then the option of going to Paris very young. So with 27, if I'm not mistaken, after like 3 years, they asked me if I would like to go to Paris and be responsible for the shampoo brand across Europe. So, which was obviously very nice. At that time, I was still single, and going to Paris, living by myself. Paris is obviously a beautiful city, but also traveling a lot in Europe. So again, very privileged, and something that happened very spontaneously. So again, just a consequence of I was doing what I liked, and that gave me the option of going to a very beautiful city, where I met my wife. So my wife, I knew her already from Lisbon, but she was traveling a lot to Paris. She was working in a French company, and one of those times that she was in Paris for a business trip, we ended up having dinner with some friends, and that was the start of 22 years of very happy marriage. We just celebrated October 16th, 22 years of our beautiful wedding, and something that I'm so proud of. So again, very we are starting connecting the dots. That is the picture of the Eiffel Tower that you see here. Then I went back to Portugal. I had a period of creating my own company, of trying to join a startup that never started. So I left Unilever because I thought, oh, I'm going to join a group of very dynamic, very progressive individuals trying to build a startup in the mobile phone company world, trying to communicate with image, which obviously was a bit of a mistake because we had no technology. So we were a bit naive. So we had no technology to, still today, now we are communicating through image, but at that time it was really not possible. So we ended up pivoting to a low cost. And when we announced to the market that we would not launch a company that would communicate through image, but rather a low price carrier, all the competitors decided to buy us, to buy the license and protect the profitability of the industry. So I found myself in a startup that never started, and I had a period of working with my father-in-law. He had some businesses, and we did some work together, trying to create brands, trying to create better. So this brand that you see here in the bottom left corner, Helvetica, was a brand that we created. We had some stores, and we developed this brand from zero, right? So trying to use the assets that we had. This is just to give an example of, life is never a straight line, right? I was very, very happy with Unilever. I went to a startup, never started. I ended up working with my father-in-law, and then I had my ex CEO from Unilever that joined Scottish and Newcastle, and that's the reason why I have a picture of Edinburgh here, Scotland. He joined Scottish and Newcastle, Portugal, and he asked me if I would like to join as a CMO. So that was back in 2004. So I was obviously excited with the opportunity. I was like 33 years old, being a CMO of quite a respectful company in Portugal, with a lot of advertising budgets, doing a lot of TV commercials, launching new products. So it was a tough decision to leave the family business, and you can imagine with my father-in-law, my wife, it was a tough decision. But again, I felt that my heart was actually asking me to have that challenge, and I would regret not having taken that decision. So it was a tough conversation with my father and my mother-in-law, the family of Patricia. But I think everyone could understand that for me it would be important. So I joined Scottish and Newcastle, and then a couple of years after, Heineken bought Scottish and Newcastle and invited me to go to Brazil. So again, another situation that was kind of unexpected. So we need to learn to expect the unexpected. And I went to Brazil. My youngest one, she was born in Brazil. My fourth, Maria, she's a Brazilian, and then Portuguese afterwards. And I had a very, very nice time there. Like I have here the Cannes Lion. We won some awards at Cannes. I have the Brazilian sales rep in the Northeast in the top of the page here. A very interesting business, a very nice business, to be very emotional. Brazilians are incredibly emotional. I learned a lot how to be more human, be more a leader connected with people. Like the time in Portugal was very competitive. My boss, the one that I was working with, was always very competitive. Going to Brazil, changing countries, having a different role, allow me to grow and be more human in that sense. And then Heineken invited me to come to the US, which has always been my dream. So my brother lived 9 years in Chicago. I always used to visit him during the summer period, and I always have this idea of one day I would love to work and live in the US. When I was working for Unilever, I had the chance to come often to the US because we were doing development of new products, and we were working with the development center in Chicago. And I always would, every time I would leave to Europe, I was like sad leaving the US. So this happened again by serendipity, right? So something that I could not control, I could not plan, but again, it happened, and here I am. So after 4 years working for Heineken, I was really going through a tough moment because I was expatriated. So normally when you are an expat, you have like 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then you need to decide and go to other countries. We had our oldest one at the, the 11th grade. So she was, it was not the ideal time for us as a family to leave the US. And we had, again, the opportunity. So the RGB company approached me in a sense of, if they were looking to have a CEO, a president of the company, looking at marketing, but also sales, supply, finance, HR. And again, a decision that was a tough decision at that time, a tough period. But I followed again, my instinct of, this is the right thing to do. It's slightly smaller company, but I have more responsibility across many brands, Guinness, Smirnoff Ice, and again, something that I'm so happy, because we were able to really shape the business, create more opportunities. I adopted what is a leadership style of, again, I sign my emails saying lead with humanity, like trying to be positive, but be close to people, be understanding that we are working with human beings and with fears, with desires, with dreams. And we know we need to connect with our teams in a very emotional way, which is what I've been offered at the Agile. But I would just like to conclude this journey by saying that the theme is always, the more we want to control, the more we want to project, the more we want to stay in control of our lives, there's not much we can do, right? So there's some areas we can control, we can do our best, but then we need to have trust in him that, you will let us know where to go and where to walk. So that is one area. And also I'm very, very, very mindful of all the different people in my life that helped me to go from one role to the other, and it has always been very spontaneous. The last story I tell, to just to give a sense of how spontaneous it is. So during that moment that I was talking with my wife about, we will need to leave the US because I'm under a visa, I'm expatriated. So, and Patricia and I, we were talking about that this is potentially not ideal. I went to Chicago, I don't know, for some reason, is always the city where things happen. And I went there to attend a conference in the Chicago University, Northwestern University, actually. And I decided to go one day before, which is normally not the case. And I said, listen, I'm going to travel the day before, we'll attend the dinner. And when I arrived into that big room with a lot of tables, I said, listen, where do I go? Oh, I see that table, very few people. I don't feel like having a lot of discussions. I will go there. And I then, basically I sit next to the recruiter that was looking for a president for the DRGB company. So again, like, who could tell, right? So, and we had a nice chat over dinner. I told him very openly, listen, I enjoy being CMO of Heineken USA. We have a bunch of brands, Dos Equis, Heineken, Tecate, Strongbow, but I'm on the edge of having to leave the US, and what can I do? And after a couple of days, he called me, hey, I don't know if you want, but I thought you could potentially be interested in joining the Agile. Would you consider it or not? So again, just one small story to tell that sometimes we need to have a lot of trust, and we need to trust him and to trust that things will be revealed to us. At the same time, we need to do always our best, and the best way to do our best is to do what we love, because if we do what we love, if we are doing what we really like, it's very likely that we are going to be the best in that field. So that would be my doesn't really matter what you do. do what you love, do what you like, because that's most likely going to take you from this place to the next. And with that, I will hand over to Ami. I think Rosario, right? So I'm very happy to have a dialogue afterwards and discuss whatever you want to discuss. So thank you for listening to me, and over to you, Ami.
Let's see. So thanks, Nuno, and thanks, Rosario. So hello, everyone. My name is Ami. I run a nonprofit called Idealist.org. I've been doing this for 25 years, which is a very long time. I started this nonprofit 25 years ago. And what we do, I won't say too much about it because talking about a website, I think, is boring. You can check it out yourself. But basically, Idealist.org is the biggest site in the world for connecting nonprofit organizations, NGOs, all over the world with people who want to work with them or volunteer for them. So we have essentially a big directory of about 130,000 organizations around the world that have joined one by one. And they post their volunteer opportunities, their jobs, their internships. And then you can go, you can search, you can get alerts when someone adds a job that is the one you want. And these are all jobs, full-time jobs, paying jobs, but for social impact, for making the world a better place, making a community a better place in every country in the world, in English, Spanish, and actually Portuguese, which is just an interesting coincidence. So we work on those in those three languages. So again, we are sort of a monster.com and Indeed, if you like, but just for nonprofit work and NGO work around the world. So that was a dream I had when I was younger, to find a way of connecting good people with good things to do. And then it's a long story how I got there, but I was obsessed with that. How do you connect people over the world that want to do something good with a way to doing that? And then as I was thinking about this, and I had many odd jobs as a waiter and a translator and a receptionist in a hotel. And then the web was invented. And when I saw the web for the first time, I thought, okay, with something like this, I can connect people everywhere. And then I started this organization and sort of have grown it since then. So I wanted to share with you, I think what I guess we were asked to do today was to share some of the lessons that we learned along the way and to try to make this, I think, as practical as possible. The things that I would have liked to know when I started and that I learned, I would have liked someone to tell me when I started. So I'll just go, relatively quickly through a few things and then open this up for any questions or comments or conversations for everyone. So the first thing, I think, from the perspective of someone who basically started something, just to talk a little bit about that. When we want to start something, anything, very often we found excuses not to start. I'm not going to start until I raise enough money or until I have 3 partners or until X. And my advice is to simply start. Very often we wait too long, and very often there's no reason to wait. So I'll give you, a concrete example. If you want to start an organization that is going to mentor children in school, and you say, well, if I don't raise, $1 million, I can't even start. Start with 1 child and 1 mentor, and just go, and then that will lead you to something else. But don't think of all the reasons not to start. Simply start and then go and do it. Once you start, the challenge immediately is to focus, because the moment you start, there will be other temptations, other ideas, other things to do. And almost in the moment that you start something, you have to start saying no to things, to yourself, to ideas that you have. You have to focus on one thing or a couple of things and go for them. Otherwise, it becomes sort of impossible. There's any number of ideas any day. And if you don't focus, you get lost very, very quickly. Now, one thing that Nuno said, to do what you love, there's another side to that people very often sort of say, when you have an idea or it's something that you want to do, go for it, pursue it, with passion. And the one thing I just want to add there is that this is true as long as your idea is a good idea. If your idea is a bad idea, don't do it and stop doing it as soon as possible. Now, of course, the question is, how do you know if your idea is a good idea or a bad idea? And very often, all of us think that our ideas are good. And so the thing to do is to ask other people and to go to people that you trust, people that whose opinion you trust, and ask them, what do you think about this idea? And if it's a new idea, very often many people won't understand it. They'll tell you that it won't work, etc. but you should find at least one or two people that you trust that think, interesting. If no one you trust thinks that your idea is a good idea, like literally nobody, then maybe you should reconsider and not spend, too much time of your life pursuing something that may not work. So try to find at least one or two other people that could see something in what you're saying, as opposed to everyone thinking that this is not going to work. Once you start almost anything and you keep going, I'll talk about the two sides of this. You will need to work with people. You need to basically hire people or work with someone. And so on the people thing, I just want to say a few things. One is that people always say that, people are the most important thing, etc. They're the only thing. People are basically it. Hiring the right people, working with the right people, trusting the right people is everything, because the people that you're with are the ones that will build something with you. They will make it work or not work. And also there's a selfish side to this. You're spending hours of every day with these people, especially, before COVID. I spent more time with these people here in the office than I spent at home. And so you might as well be with people you like, and so to me, for a very long time now, the way that I summarize this to myself was that I wanted to hire kind and interesting people who make me laugh. That was my summary. I wanted to find people who are kind, who are interesting, and who basically are fun to be with. And so that's important. Now, when you hire people, often, you meet someone, you interview them a few times, and then you hire them, and you're basically getting married after 3 or 4 dates. It's a very strange thing. You make this decision, a very big decision, based on a few encounters. And so once in a while, you will make a mistake. And people don't like talking about this, but once in a while, you will make a mistake. You will hire the wrong person for the organization, for the company. And when that happens, you should try to correct that mistake as soon as possible. People say this, in a very, clear way, hire slowly, but fire quickly. Once it's a typical thing that happens in many organizations and many companies. People realize that somebody is not good for the position or for the company, and then they procrastinate with doing something about it. And that's bad for the person. It's bad for you. Once you know. And there are two ways, by the way, I think that very often One is to think of all the people that work with you and to ask yourself very honestly how you would feel if they quit, if they resigned. And if you'd be very sad if they left, then they should be there. If you'd be relieved if they left, then they probably shouldn't be there. And then the other sign that very often happens is that when someone is really great at what they do, there's not much to say about them when you talk about them with other managers. They're like, oh, they're fantastic. When you spend too much time talking about someone, that's a very bad sign. When you spend hours talking about this person and their work, that's usually not a good sign. So that's sort of a manager perspective of just try to hire and be with the best possible people. From an employee perspective, for those of you who are looking for work or are, in a workplace, one thing I've learned over time is that when people consider a job or what job to take, there's too much emphasis on how much the job pays. There's too much emphasis literally on the salary. And I think we don't educate people enough, young people, kids, and even older people, into looking at the whole package. And even, in English in the US, even when you say package, people think of benefits and the salary. To me, the package is much wider than that. It's yes, it's the salary, it's the benefits, it's vacations, it's the length of your commute. If you're going to walk to the office for 5 minutes, or you're going to spend an hour on the road in bad traffic, what is that worth to you? And to take a job that pays, $3,000 more a year, but will involve a 2-hour commute versus a 10-minute walk is nuts. I mean, what are 2 hours worth to you? Does the office have windows? Will you get sunlight? Are the people friendly? Will you learn something? Will you have a good mentor? Will you have people to work with? So is the office in a nice neighborhood, or do you have to walk through an ugly area every day to get to your office? All these things are part of a package, and the pay is just one piece of that. It's much, much broader than that. You can come up with 20 things that could be reasons to join a place or not join a place. That's a little bit about people and about jumping in. I want to say three more things sort of in general. One is time. So one thing I've learned, and it's cost me a very long time to learn, is to be really respectful of your time. You know, some of these things are cliches because they're true. We only have 24 hours in the day. It's the one resource that we can't grow. And so to really be careful with what you do with your time and what you commit to. There's one mistake that I think all of us make in our lives. It's very easy. It's too easy sometimes to say yes to something that is happening in the future. So someone invites you to, you know, travel to a conference that sounds good 3 months from now. You're like, oh, great. It's a 3-day trip. If it were happening tomorrow, you would say no way. But because it's 3 months from now, it's called, but there's a technical name for this. It's called hyperbolic discounting. We discount things that are in the future. It's the reason why, for example, climate change is very difficult to tackle because it's in the future. And so when someone proposes something that's in the future to you, pretend for a moment that it's happening tomorrow. And would you say yes to this if it was happening tomorrow? Otherwise, it's just too easy to say yes. And then the day comes and you're like, oh my God, I have to go to California tomorrow. Why did I say yes? So that's just in general, to be really careful with your time and also with other people's time. When you start something and when you start a career, even just, you know, beginning a career or trying to find a job, one thing that people tell you to do is to network, you know, to reach out to other people for information or for, and so to really respect other people's time. You know, their time is as valuable as yours. And so prepare, do some research, don't ask them things that you can just Google. And the one thing I think that was really hard for me to honestly to sort of accept for a while was that, you know, again, my name is Ami, and it was very difficult for me to accept that getting back to Ami is not the #1 item on most people's to-do lists. You know, when most people get back in the morning, getting back to me is not the #1 thing in their agenda. It's unfortunate, it should be, but it's not. And accepting that with humility, that you are not somebody else's #1 priority, I think is really, really important. There's a weird thing that sometimes we don't understand, I think, when we start our careers or even later on, that the kind of people who can help us, right? So call them successful people, the kind of people that you want to talk to. Let's say, and take an extreme example, you're a young person, you just finished, you know, college or grad school, you're unemployed, you're looking for a job, and you're trying to reach someone that you think could help you because you're trying to talk to Nuno. There's this executive, he, you know, is a big marketing expert. You want to get into marketing, and so you want to reach out to talk to Nuno. By definition, Nuno is much busier than you. You have all the time in the world. Nuno is busy. He's successful because he's busy, and he's busy because he's successful. And so if he gives you half an hour, that's a very big deal. And so to respect that and to understand that it may not happen tomorrow. And also, if someone says no to you without ever having met you, it's not personal. They don't know you. So it's not personal. Don't take it personally. If they meet you once and then never want to see you again, that's maybe personal. They didn't like you the first time. But if they don't know you, it's not personal. They just don't have time. So don't worry about it. So that's one thing. And then lastly, is to you know, people in the US use this word networking a lot, the value of networking, and you know, the idea of exchanging cards, whatever. Build a network over your life, a network of friends, basically, and I really believe this, by trying to do everything you can to treat other people the way that you want to be treated. You know, people talk about this when we're children, they talk about this in church. But I think that there's no reason in the world why at work we can't behave that way, why we can't treat our employees, our managers, our suppliers, our bosses, our clients in the way that we would like to be treated. And if you do that, if you treat other people truly the way that you want to be treated, then you will gradually build a network of people that you can reach out to and that you can, you know, work with. And part of that, and to close the circle with people, is to, as much as you possibly can, try to avoid toxic people, jerks, use whatever you want. Don't hire them, try to not work with them. It's important to basically have as much, you know, quality around you. And if you can avoid that, do, even if it costs you a bit of money, even if it means that you're not going to make that sale or you're not going to make that partnership, it's just not worth working with people who are truly toxic to your life or to your values, people whose values really run against your own. It's just not worth it. So anyway, so if you have a dream, go for it, but be careful about going for the the good ones. There are many ideas out there. Ideas are really a dime a dozen. It's all about execution. So go for an idea, but don't, if you don't think it's a good idea. Work with the best possible people you can. When you're considering a job, try to think about the whole package and not just the pay. And build a network by treating people well, and respect your time and other people's time. Those, I think, would be my biggest lessons after all these years. So I'll stop there and see what you all want to say.
Thank you very much, both of you, for everything that you just shared with us. Meanwhile, you are writing here all the questions that you want. I would like to start, please. I would like to start because I noticed in this conversation some kind of openness to the reality. You were open to something that happened. I mean, you were saying that you were working in different things until Idealis happened. Nuno was saying that he just decided to sit on this table, and happened this amazing thing that you switch between companies. Why this openness? Because why this openness? Just this is my question. Because usually, or at least for me, we try to get everything under control, more or less, and to get everything settled. So both of you, I noticed this openness, and I would like to understand why. So the question is for both of you.
Go ahead, Emma. I can go then. It's actually a good approach to life, right? So being open, being like always with that mind that you will always discover something new. You will always find something that you were kind of not expecting. When I look back, and again, every single time that something happened to me, it was really the combination of different things coming together in the right place, right? So, which is good to know, but it's also very frightening, right? Because you want to have things more like, you want to know, like, I have A plus B equals C, but that is a bit naive, right? So after all these years believing that everything will be just a consequence of the things we do, it's better to have trust that things will end up happening, and things happen for a reason. Like another example is I was applying when I was in Europe. I applied for a role in France that I did not get. I applied for a role in the UK that I did not get. I applied to a role in Asia that ended up not working. And then I had the Brazil one. So when I had the Brazil one, I was happy. But when I didn't get all the others, I was a bit like, what's going to happen to me, right? So am I going to stay here doing what I'm doing all my life, and I don't have any other opportunities? So I think it's a combination of like trying to do control what you can control, and try through Amy's recommendations, having a network, treat others the way you want to treat, to want to be treated. Things will end up happening, and in due time. So and in the right way. Rosario, did I address your question?
I think so. I mean, do you want to add something more?
I'm not sure about the open. I mean, yes. I mean, obviously, being open to possibilities, being open to opportunities, is important. One thing I would add to that is that I know that in my life it's been very important to try to distinguish very clearly between the things that I can control and the things that I can't control, and the things that I cannot control, to not spend any time worrying about them, because if literally I cannot control them, then what is the point about worrying about them? So yeah, so I can't spend my time worrying about what someone else somewhere will do or say or think. I can only control what I can control, and so to try to do the best with what I can. The other thing, which I'm not sure I can find the right words for, is that I think that my feeling about my own life and everything I do every day is that everything I do is really important, and everything I do is not important at all at the same time. And what I mean by that is that I think everything is important because we live here, we're here, we're in the world, and so anything that we add to the world, for example, like I'm in this office that we built. It's a beautiful office, and I like that it's beautiful for our staff, but also because I think if you add something to the world, try to make it as beautiful as possible for everyone. It's a responsibility that we have to each other. And so whatever is worth doing, you know, that cliche in English, that whatever is worth doing is worth doing well. So to take what you do as seriously as you can. And at the same time, for me, to remember that, you know, I really believe strongly that, you know, I came from dust, I'm going to go back to dust. 100 years from now, nobody will remember that I existed, and it won't, and nothing I'm doing now will actually matter at all. So it's a combination of basically trying to really take seriously what you do, while remembering that in the end, whatever. So people, you know, it's interesting that one thing I always keep in mind is that if you think, you know, for example, of, you know, who was Minister of Defense for Jimmy Carter, right? Or who was Minister of Agriculture in the Roosevelt administration? When that person, it was probably a he, when he was Minister of Agriculture 70 years ago, he thought it was a very big deal, right? It was a very big deal. Today, except for his great-grandchildren, maybe, who remembers and who cares? And so to sort of keep that in mind all the time, that it's all very important and it all doesn't matter at all. And it's a weird thing to keep in mind at the same time, but I think it's important and it keeps us humble. And to me, at least, it's important. It's the only way I know how to live. Actually, I can't live otherwise. So, yeah.
So thank you, Nuno. Thank you, Ami. It's really a lively discussion that we're having here. So we have some questions. So so one of the question is actually directed to Nuno by Maurizio. Is what is the primary criteria for making big decisions like changing jobs? How do you know when to hold them and when to like fold them or get rid of them?
You never really know, Mauricio. I think it's you feel like so like after 3-4 years you start like, can I grow a bit more? Can I stretch myself a little bit more? Can I you know, like you have that desire of trying. At least I have always this curiosity. So trying new things, test, you know, if I can really stretch. So some of the times is also a need, right? So so when I embraced that startup that never started, that was clearly a bad decision. um I loved Unilever, you know, like until today. It's potentially the years that I was happier. I think Brazil was also, and now I think those are like the three areas, three phases, like Unilever, Brazil, and now with the RGB company. But that was a desire. I wanted to do, you know, I was 33 years old, and I was even 30. It's like, yeah, it was like 29, 30. Like I was like, I want to do something and create a new company. How fun it will be, etc. So that was one criteria, right? So the desire of doing something new. The Heineken to Diageo was of necessity, right? So I said, listen, I want to stay in the US. I would love to stay in the US. What can I find where I will be happy, where I will enjoy, and I would not, like, that was a perfect combination of a work that allowed me to grow, because I always wanted to take more than just marketing, do marketing, sales, finance, more like running the company. So that allowed me to have that opportunity, at the same time stay in the US. So that was I think the criteria will be follow your desires, follow your dreams, and try to embrace. Don't be afraid of trying new things, but also when you are happy, commit to it, right? So I didn't change in, like, I tend to stay long periods. Like I never really changed less than 3-4 years. I don't think it makes any sense to go from one place to the other. What can you learn in 1 year, right? So you don't even have the chance to plan and implement and see the results of what you have implemented, right? I think like 3-4 years, I think it's solid, because you first year you kind of learn, the second year you start getting to know the things and planning, the third year you are truly implementing what you have planned, and the fourth year you are really having the results of what you have built, right? So did I address, Mauricio, your question? I think it needs to be a good blend.
I'm
Great.
sorry, Sharon, I saw that you have a question, but I wanted to interject on this very point of changing jobs, because I remember very well, and this is still happening today, I'm afraid. We lived in an era where certain type of management consulting companies, usually based in Massachusetts, they shall remain unnamed, tell you that if you don't change your job every 5 years, you're a loser, okay? I hate this type of thing. This is a dogma that has been present in every industry in United States, because to me, it is not linked to reality. If you are building something, and that's something that you're building is useful and is taking more than 5 years, you better continue doing the job. If you're not building anything, you don't need to wait 5 years, change earlier. It seems to me that we should reject the dogma that unless you are regularly promoted to a bigger salary, to a bigger visibility, to a bigger thing, then you're basically useless, you're a failure. Having said that, I came from Europe, and in the academic world in Europe, people once achieve a certain level of professional recognition, they glue themselves to the chair they're sitting on. So, they will never leave their job for their entire life. At least in this country, in the academic level, there is the 7 years renewal of your responsibilities and so on. But the point I want to make is really that there is nothing automatic about changing job. At least what matters the most is not the salary, is not the promotion, but is the job that you are doing that has a dignity.
Thank you, Renzo. Okay, so now let's go back to Sharon's question. So Sharon asked, how do you advise someone who has been seeking a job for a while and has become very discouraged with their search?
Sharon, what field are you in, or what kind of job are you trying to find?
Let's see. Let me unmute Sharon for a bit.
Actually, I'm asking, I have a volunteer position with Ergon. I match mentors and mentees. It's just in my experience, in just knowing people at a certain point, people can, because you have kind of a message of hope and of things that happen and being open. So maybe I was just asking to go further about that, because sometimes people kind of hit the wall and they become very discouraged and kind of stuck when they're looking. It could be for a lot of reasons. I mean, maybe they're reaching high. Maybe they have to, really look at going in a different direction, or the conditions are difficult in different ways.
So I think a couple of things really quickly. One is that I think that the good news, I think right now, literally in the moment that we are, is that employers are looking for people. I mean, this is in all my time, doing this work, and I've had the same job for 25 years. So I'm one of those who just, stays, is that this is a time when it's difficult to find people. That you're reading this everywhere. Salaries are going up. There's just not enough people looking for work. Actually, I mean, there's employers are starved for employees, and so sometimes there's two things. One is that the person looking, are they flexible? Like, do they want one thing, right? Like I am not going to accept a job unless it is doing exactly this and exactly this way, etc. And that can sometimes be difficult. Sometimes you need to be willing to do something different, at least for a while. The issue of the rejection, discouragement, I mean, I completely understand this. This is really hard when you are on the side of, this may be obvious, but we're on the side of sort of hiring people. When you put out a job and you say, we're looking for X, right? At the beginning, that's a process of inclusion. You're trying to get as many resumes as possible. And, you put out a big call and hundreds of resumes come in. Sometimes I try to tell people here, from this point of view of treating other people the way we would like to be treated, once you have enough people applying, stop, because every person that is applying is spending time or is wasting time at home and wasting hope, wasting illusions. And by the time that you have your pile of 100 resumes, those are hundreds of hours of human time that went into producing this pile on your desk that you'll just go like this, but there's hundreds of hours of human hope in that pile. And so to just respect that too, and close the search because you're just opening people up. So that's one thing. Now, once you're done assembling the pile, you start this very painful process of exclusion. You have 100 resumes and you're going to hire one person. 99 people will be disappointed. And that's the fate of every search, right? Every search that is for one person will end up with one person being hired and 99 disappointed people. And it's very easy or natural to take that personally, to be disappointed. But if you apply for 6 jobs, that each job had 100 applicants and they hired 6 people, chances are it won't be you. In other words, just probabilistically, it'll probably not be you. It may be you, but it probably won't be you. So you have to believe and you have to keep trying. At the same time, accept that very often it'll be no, and the no has nothing to do with you. There was somebody else, that was just better for that job, and maybe you were great for it, but somebody else was different or better. And so you need to keep trying. But I think what I said at the beginning, it's a very fortunate moment right now of many people looking for good people. And if someone is open to do something different, then great, try something different. It's okay, even just as a stepping stone. It's better to be doing something than to be doing nothing. For most people, being truly unemployed can be horrible. And so to do something, it doesn't matter what, and then go from there.
Thank you.
I would just add one thing, which is, in order to maximize the chances to be the chosen one, it's like, what's your competitive advantage? So, and I think that's a good advice. Like, besides, reaching out to people, understanding what Amy was already saying, the most likely outcome is not to be the chosen one. and to, that gives you the strength to continue. But it's also like what's your competitive advantage? Like, I could see, like, when I was in that process of, do I leave the US? Do I not leave the US? Like, what's in it for a recruiter when he's looking at my resume, right? So I was clearly a CMO. I understood beer. I was, I've been working in beer for 14 years. Now almost 20 years, right? In Brazil, in Europe. So I was going to manage a brand like Guinness. It's kind of, okay, I had a competitive advantage, right? If I was asked to go and work for McDonald's in the US, like, what the heck? Like, why do they want Portuguese running McDonald's in the US? Like, I could be a fantastic marketeer, but I would have no chance to get that role. Because it would be like, why me? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So it's more like, what's my knowledge? What do I like and what do I do well that will increase the chances of me being the chosen one?
Thank you.
Which is often not the case. I don't see people like doing that pre-assessment of like, why should I be the one chosen, right? So, and I think that you are advising a lot of people like us, but like, what would you say it's your competitive? Like, it's a good provocation. Anything else? There's one idea that I thought sharing. Like, I had a lot of people in my team that decided to leave their job and in the pursuit of like a job title. I could see enough, like it never lasts long. Like I had a couple. I go and I'm going to be a VP. I'm going to be a president. I'm going to be just for the sake of, right. And after 1 year, they don't like it. It's what Amy mentioned, right? It doesn't. The offer, they moved only because they were obsessed by the title. They get the title, and then. But I don't like this. The commute is long. I don't have the way, like the example that Ami was saying. I don't like the people around me. Yeah. Okay, because the title is not at all what matters. Is yours? Are you in a sweet spot or not? Do you like what you are doing or not? At least that's my view.
Okay. Thank you, Nuno. Thank you, Ami. So I think we're running a little bit over. So Rosario, do you have time for one more question?
I think that we have time for one more question, but it's 9 and I don't want to waste the time. And I think that could be good, yes, to close this.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the participant who is asking questions is sorry. I think we have to close it. All right, go for it.
So thank you very much, Nuno. Thank you very much, Ami. Please, we send to you the survey. We are here for you and we want to know what do you need in order to continue doing our job at Ergon. So again, I am very pleased of this conversation to having Nuno Teles here with us and Ami Dar. Thank you very much for this amazing conversation.
Thanks for having me.